Good evening. This is Sumit from Talks on Ground. The world has really turned upside down since January 20th, since Donald Trump took oath. And I think every global leader is on edge right now. If there was a competition to kind of find out which country is more distressed, troubled, fearful, angry, um, emotionally distraught, there will be a very strong competition. Will it be Canada? Will it be Mexico? Will it be the UK, Ukraine, China? You name it. And every guy, every country, every world leader that you can think of, Trump has kind of shaken them to the core. He's redefining the world politics from top to bottom. And trust me, a lot of the things that he's doing are radical. And one wonders whether uh, he will run out of steam in 1 day, in 2 days, in 3 weeks, in 6 weeks. Whenever it does, the world will still remain very different from what it was on January 19th, 2025. This is Samit on Talks on Ground. So today we are talking about the impact and the war between the non-kinetic tug of war between NATO and Trump. So Trump has a NATO problem and NATO has a Trump problem. And most of you already know why I'm saying this. So it's no rocket science to find out that Donald Trump really wants out of NATO, or if he stays in it, then the Europeans have to pay much more. If we go back in history, NATO was set up right after the Second World War, and this was um, not like a um, in those days it was not a very big deal, as in it was established in 1949. It has 31 members, and one of its articles says if you attack one of us, you attack on all of us. And that's why Ukraine really wants in. Because if the Russian attack on Ukraine is counted as an attack on NATO, then Ukraine doesn't have much to worry about. Of course, it's headquartered in Europe, in Brussels, in Belgium, and it's really trying to have a collective defense. But honestly, one has to wonder whether it has lived up to its promise and whether this is of any use to anybody in the world right now. So I think what Trump is doing is going to shake not only the security apparatus of Europe, it's going to shake the very foundations of the global security architecture. There are 303 million, sorry, 3.3 million active personnel in NATO, of which US has 1.4 million, Turkey 500,000, and France 200,000. And the NATO response force itself is 40,000 troops. But the last time they were used in a war is so long back that no one really remembers in any effective way. European nations have, under pressure from Trump, said we are going to increase our force commitments, but their promise is anybody's guess as to what will happen. We all know that the Europeans are really protected by this American security umbrella. So why will they give up? Why will they not have thousands of dollars of subsidies for their citizens? Why will they not let the Americans print the dollars? Um, you know, export the inflation to the rest of the world, especially the global South. And basically, America leads, and Europe is in a very happy place because everybody gets their dollars or euros. The total annual budget is almost $1.2 trillion dollars of this massive military alliance. The US pays 860 billion. So basically, this is US plus led alliance. There is nothing much that the Europeans do here. UK is just 80 billion, Germany 65, France 55, and NATO has a 2% GDP target, and most members are lagging behind. And the EU is now pushing for independent defense funding, which will be apart from this NATO funding. So I wonder where will this money come from? It's not going to happen, sir. There is a ballistic missile defense system within NATO, and there is these systems are placed in Poland and Romania. That is in public domain. There must be other stuff there. US, UK, France, they have their own nuclear deterrence, and the one with France is supposed to be independent of the US, while the one with UK is really um, like controlled by the US. Europeans also have a missile program, which is the MBDA's Aster and Iris T systems, whatever that means. The last really major combat by NATO was in 2011, Operation Unified Protector. In between 2001 and 21, NATO has led ISAF in Afghanistan, and we know what happened there. 4 years back or so. There are ongoing missions in Kosovo, Iraq, and there is some deployment in Eastern Europe after this Ukraine conflict has started. This covers North America and Europe, and the presence is there in the Arctic and Indo-Pacific. There are new security partnerships with Japan and Australia. I wonder if they're talking about uh, sub uh, quad kind of deployment. Then there are forward deployments in Poland, as I mentioned, and the Black Sea, and so on. Um, so basically, this is all of this is a lot of nice words. So there is this call from the US for fairer burden sharing in the NATO, and it's really about money. And there is talk of expanding NATO, and this is what brought on the whole conflict in Ukraine, by the way. So the Russians don't want Ukraine within the NATO, and that is what they were really scared about. So that is what caused this whole fighting to start, apart from other things. So in many ways, uh, this whole NATO thing uh, is going to cause a lot of geopolitical um, to and fro, back and forth in the next few weeks and months or days for sure. And one of the things that the Americans are trying to do is to cut their budget, because there is a whole industry that has been going after the dollar. So this whole de-dollarization is what is underneath everything. So the underpinning of the global instability in the last, say, 10 years since 2014 is really to do with the dollar going under. And because basically the US has overreached its own powers and sanctioned people right, left, and center, and they were not able to justify it morally or legally or otherwise. And once you lose your moral power, any superpower, their days are numbered. So whatever Donald Trump is going to do from here is not going to be enough to capture the or become the sole superpower. It is going to be multilateral world, and Donald Trump is making the world multilateral while he's talking about uh, he's making it multipolar rather, while he's talking a unipolar game. So that's the game within the game. So in other words, what will happen? He starts paying less for NATO deployments, or the contributions of America goes down, the European contribution goes up. Now that's going to reduce the social security outlays for the European countries. That will cause social tensions. There could be more conservative governments coming into all of Europe. They already are. Once the social security system breaks down, then it's going to have even a bigger nationalist drive in those countries, because fewer resources will obviously, the local population will want to have more control of whatever resources that are left. So once that happens, what I believe will happen is that you will have a basically a free for all, in the sense that nobody will really want to have an alliance. They will all play their own game, which will be really nice for Russia, and it'll be not so nice for China, because then China has to negotiate with 28 countries, whatever that number is, while Russia will have the opportunity to bring some of the Eastern European nations under their own thumb. So the NATO versus Trump is what will decide the trajectory of the future global geopolitics, especially from a security tangent, in the coming months and weeks. And I say this despite all the talk about South China Sea, the China Taiwan conflict, the Indo Chinese conflict, the Indo Pakistan tensions, the US Iran tensions, the Israel Hamas tensions. The one tension which underlies or under is under the hood is the Europe US tension. Now, if that tension boils over and US walks out of NATO, for instance, that's the big step that can take, that Trump can take. In that case, there will be a complete breakdown of the architecture that the US itself has built, and it'll be good for the US in terms of reducing the expenses. But they will no longer be the world's policemen, and they have found out that they really can't have 800 or whatever military bases that they have, and they would rather want to secure uh, countries closer to them. So it's like the near countries, the Canada, the Mexico, the South America. Uh, so these are the countries that they would rather control. So it's a very interesting shift. So while Trump is trying to secure America from within by first, weeding out all the illegals, he's also trying to bring some exports back to the country, reducing the imports of other countries, and making So I apologize for this network issue. I was just saying that basically once the US uh, retreats from the rest of the world, it'll want to secure lands in the north of America and the south of America and maybe Greenland or something, and then maybe focus most of its military against China. So the people who are really worried about Trump are the Chinese, um, uh, the Pakistanis, and so on, because while all this drama about Trump and NATO is going on, there is this real threat that we're going to have a very, what should I say, a very, very turbulent time ahead for US and China relations. While right now the headlines are being made by Trump versus NATO. But this Trump versus NATO is the one thing to really watch out for, because the main conflict is being fought in Ukraine, which is really a proxy war between Russia and Europe, if you think about it, Russia and US, if you think about it, or it's Europe versus US, if you really took it a little further with that logic. Anyhow, apologies for the slight disconnection, some internet issues. I will see you later with a follow up on this one. And thank you for watching. This was Sumit. Thank you. Good night.